Good evening and welcome to the CYC News for the 2nd of December 2018 and the 23rd of Hatur 17:35 am. I'm Andrew Botros. In today's headlines, Syrian radio host who satirized Assad and ISIS is dead. US told to act now over Yemen conflict to share blame for mass famine. Dozens injured in toxic gas attack on Aleppo. Ukraine leader warns on full-scale confrontation with Russia. Climate change is already here and the heat waves are having the biggest effect. Evacuations and flash flood watches for burned areas of California wildfires. FDA approves to cancer treatment after being expedited reviews. Barcelona spends more on wages than teams on any sport. But first to Syria, where a radio host who satirized both President Bashar al-Assad and opposition insurgents, including ISIS, has been shot dead in the country's rebel-held Idlib province. The Syrian Journalists Association said on Saturday, Raed al-Faris and another activist, Angelos Hamoud Junaid, were killed on Friday in the town of Kafar Nabil after being hunted by extremist groups. A statement from the journalism group said both of the men were killed were pioneers of civilized society and brought the free voice of world through the famous banners of Kafar Nabil. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights and British-based human rights group said unidentified gunmen killed the pair in the town where the US-funded Radio Fresh station was based. No group has claimed responsibility for these killings. As the Syrian war progressed, Faris secretly filmed and released the footage showing the suffering of people in Kafar Nabil. In 2014, he was shot in the chest by ISIS and abducted and tortured several times, according to the observatory. In a joint statement on Facebook, Jim Jeffrey, the U.S. Secretary of State Special Representative for Syria Engagement, and Joel Rayburn, U.S. Deputy Assistant Secretary of State and Special Envoy for Syria, said the two activists lived in their lives as heroes. They said as symbols of the Syrian revolution and the best of the youth for Syria. They were among the first revolutionaries to put their creativity and skills to use to serve their people and their nation. Since the beginning of the Syrian revolution in 2011, hundreds of thousands of Syrians were killed, including dozens of activists. The heads of 5 major humanitarian organizations have warned the United States it will bear shared responsibility for what may be the largest famine in decades, if it does not cease for its military support for the coalition led by Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates. In an unusually stark joint statement, the leaders of the International Rescue Committee, Oxfam America, Care United States, Save the Children United States of America, and the Norwegian Refugee Council USA all urged the US government to act and save the Yemeni lives. The statement said, the stakes in Yemen are shocking and must be stated clearly. 14 million people are at risk of starving to death in Yemen if the parties to the conflict and the supporters do not change their course immediately. Unless the warring parties immediately cease hostilities, reopen all Yemen's ports to let the commercial shipments, allow humanitarian staff to aid and reach those in need, and stabilize the Yemeni economy, including by paying civil servants, many Yemenis are unlikely to live through the winter. The US and others have supported the Saudi and UAE-led coalition in its fight to expel Iranian-backed Houthi rebels from Yemen. To Syria now, where around 100 people were injured in a toxic gas attack on the government-controlled city of Aleppo on Saturday, according to Syrian state media and British-based human rights group. It is not clear who carried out the attack, but Syria's state news agency quoted a local commander as blaming terrorist group, while Russia accused militants of firing mortar rounds containing chlorine on the city's northern districts. Nasser al-Hariri, the head of the Syrian opposition negotiation delegation to Geneva, told Saudi-owned Al-Hadath TV that the attack on Aleppo originated from an area controlled by pro-regime Iranian militias. On Twitter, he wrote the regime and its allies are using this as an excuse to launch a military operation in North Syria. The reported attack on Aleppo is the first since Russia and Turkey agreed to establish a demilitarized zone in the rebel-controlled Idlib province. Rights groups said the investigation into the attack was needed and called on Russia and Syria to allow a neutral third party to look into it. In a statement, Lama Fakih, Deputy Director for the Middle East and North Africa Human Rights Watch, said serious reports of suspected chemical weapons attack should not be left without investigation. All parties, including the Syrian government and Russia, should facilitate an investigation into the suspected attack of Aleppo, which reportedly affected dozens, including children. To Ukraine now, where President Petro Poroshenko warned that his country's simmering conflict with Russia could quickly spiral into full-scale confrontation, following a maritime clash between the two countries over the weekend. The incident between Kyiv and Moscow ended with 3 Ukrainian ships in Russian custody. Ukraine and Russia have offered conflicting accounts on what happened, each accusing the other for violating the laws of the sea. Poroshenko said that Sunday's events were extraordinary, accusing Russia of attacking his country's ships. He said, officially without tearing off chevrons, without green men, Russian troops in large numbers attacked the ships from the armed forces of Ukraine, referring to soldiers during the 2014 invasion and annexation of Crimea, who were not wearing insignia on their green uniform. The Ukrainian president also said Russia appeared to be building a military presence along the border with this country, saying, "And what this is, I don't want anybody to think that this is a trifle." The country of under the threat of full-scale war between Russian Federation, Poroshenko said. There have also been reports of Russian missiles being moved in the aftermath of the standoff. Climate change is here and affecting our health. According to a new global report, more people than ever are vulnerable to heat exposure globally, and numbers are rising. According to the Lancet Countdown on Health and Climate Change report by an international group of researchers. It comes just days after climate reports from the US government and the United Nations said that greater action on climate change is needed, with the UN report showing that in 2017 the highest level of carbon were emitted globally. The report identified present-day changes impacting public health, including lower productivity, decreased crop yield, and the spread of disease such as dengue and cholera, said researchers from 27 global institutions, including university and research centers, and the UN who put together the study. Hilary Graham, professor of health sciences at the University of York in the UK, who participated in the report, said present changes in heat waves and labour capacity provide an early warning of the compounded and overwhelming impact on public health that expected if temperatures continue to rise. Dr. Nick Watt, executive director of the Lancet Countdown, stressed that this is not something that is happening in 2050, but something that we are seeing today. He said that high low-income countries are affected negatively, and Elizabeth Robinson, professor of environmental economics at the University of Reading, who was involved in the report, said that this just manifests in different ways, she added. To the United States now, as rain hit California last Thursday, officials prepared for the threat of mudslides and debris following in areas affected by wildfires. Flash flood watches and evacuation orders were issued for the affected parts of California, as possible thunderstorms threatened to increase the risk. In Southern California, Coal Fire Riverside Country issued a mandatory evacuation orders for some communities affected by the Holy Fire, which burned more than 22,000 acres earlier this year. Officials said that the order was initially a voluntary one, but the change to a mandatory order because of the projected amount of rainfall. The National Weather Service said up to 1.81 inches have been reported in the area and more rain is expected. The weather also posted on Twitter saying ash, mud and debris follows the possible with the heavy rain. Orange County Fire Authority announced a flash flood watch over ordered and voluntary evacuations for homes located in Trabuco Creek, Rose Canyon, and the Mystic Oaks, El Carrizo areas, which were also scorched by the Holy Fire. Fire stations were also offering residents and sandbags, and flash flood watches also issued burn parts of Northern California, including areas where the state's deadliest, most destructive wildfire. The campfire raged for more than 2 weeks this month, killing 88 people. In some health news, the US Food and Drug Administration approved 2 cancer treatments, Vitravki and Gilternitib, this week after expedited reviews. Gilternitib tablets are for the treatment of adult patients who have relapsed or refractory acute myeloid leukemia with a FLT3 mutation. Alongside the tablets, the agency also approved a diagnostic to detect the mutation. In a statement, Dr. Richard Padzur, the director of FDA Oncology Center of Excellence, said approximately 25 to 30% of patients with AML have a mutation in the FLT3 gene. These mutations are associated with particularly aggressive form of disease and a higher risk of relapse. Vitravki is a treatment for adult pediatric patients whose cancers have specific genetic feature. The FDA said that the statement that is in the second approved cancer treatment that is based on a tumor biomarker instead of a place in the body where the tumor originated. It will be used for treatment of solid tumours that have NTRK gene fusion that do not have known resistance mutation, or where surgical removal is likely to lead to severe morbidity, and that have no alternative treatment or have progressed after treatments. Both treatments also receiving orphan drug designation, a stature granted to drug for rare diseases or condition. And Barcelona spends more money on wages than any other club in the world and has become the first sports team in history to top 10 English pounds million a year in average first team to pay. According to the sporting intelligence website's latest global sports salary survey, the average basic first team pay for the 2018-2019 season in La Liga Giants equates to 10,500,000 English pounds, a rise of third Catalan since 2017-2018 season. It is the first time Barcelona topped the survey since 2012, where the club's average wage was half the current sum. La Liga rivals Real Madrid is second, with the first team players earning an average of 8.1 English pounds per year. While the next 6 spots are filled by NBA teams, with Oklahoma Thunder's last year table toppers third, the Thunder, Golden State Warriors and Washington Wizards become the first American teams with an average pay of more than $10 million per player per year. Manchester United is the highest English club in the 10th space, while Italian champions Juventus have risen from 32nd to 9th in the table after signing Cristiano Ronaldo in the pre-season. And that is all for CYC News. A reminder you can watch this news bulletin again throughout the week on YouTube. I'm Andrew Botros from CYC Studios in Sydney, Australia. Good night and God bless.